Hello, and welcome again to the Executive Room podcast, where we delve deep into the minds of remarkable executives who have shaped the business world with their ideas and actions. I'm your host, Kimberly Afonso, CEO and founder of the PQE Consulting Group, and today it's an honor to have Thomas Carganico with us. Thomas is the VP of Strategy and Marketing Communications at PQE Group, a global life science consulting firm focused on compliance and data integrity for the pharma industry. Thomas leads all marketing initiatives, global partnerships, and marketing strategy development, working to expand PQE's impact across international markets. He's also an advocate for diversity, active in ISPE, supports women in pharma, and also supports various initiatives that advance the pharma industry. So let's get started. Thomas, thank you again for being on. I was really excited, looking forward to this as you're our first marketing guest. And I love, as you know, we're in the same world, so I love to talk about marketing and comms whenever possible. So within life sciences, you're leading PQE Group globally right now. There's been tons of expansion. Can you share a little bit more about your journey to what brought you to where you are today and what you're doing now and some of the exciting things in the marketing world you're seeing?
Thank you very much, Kimberly. It's a pleasure to be in this podcast together. And thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to be here. So I would say that my journey has been quite diverse and different from many other journeys. My marketing has been my passion since the very early years in my career. But my very first passion was related to the film industry and the entertainment industry. So I started my journey, and back in 2012, when I decided to move to the US to deep dive into PR and communication, for a leading channel of the PBS, where I was working with filmmakers, engaging with local media and magazines, which was one of the, most exciting time in my life, as it was my first job outside of my home country. So I had the pleasure to deep dive into a different culture in a different country, which was the US. Then I actually changed the industry, went and moved to London for a few years, where I was working with an Italian brand of food and beverage. And then I landed somehow into pharma and life science, which has been really different. But at the same time, I was able to kind of bring together all the kind of things that I've learned and the different cultural experiences that I had into this role. And marketing was really a good challenge for me when I joined PQE, also because the market's something that it's really technical. We are a B2B business, experts in compliance, something that is not as trendy as other maybe sectors. I was anyway able to bring something in, from the entertainment industry and from other industry that I've worked with, to make the marketing of PQE a little bit more remarkable and and more overall interesting.
That's really exciting. And I wanted to talk about how, PQE really went from being very local to right now really global, and you're managing the global marketing team. You're executing tons of international campaigns. A lot of these come with unique challenges. What approaches have you found effective for running global teams and campaigns effectively?
So I will say that we kept our local touch, which was the most important thing. So the goal at PQE was, to invest in our global capabilities and make sure that our brand was well known across our customers, which are, global pharmaceutical companies with plants and sites everywhere. So we had to kind of look global, but still act as a local company in every country that we work in. Just to give you an idea, we worked in more than 40 countries. PQE now has 23 legal entities around the world. So our challenge was, despite we work for global companies, how do we make sure that the local stakeholders in different companies that we were working with see us? So we wanted to be seen as a local let's say, company, a local employer. So PQE expanded very much and invested into founding so many entities because we wanted to hire locally, have our employees that can speak the language and have the culture of our clients. So the cultural, let's say, and international approach was really one of the, let's say, founding pillars of our marketing strategies. That's why we decided to develop the website in 13 different languages, to have local stakeholders and opinion leaders joining our team all over the world, so we can really have a customized and kind of closer to the final consumers of our services, and engage with our clients overall in a better way.
And I remember, Thomas, we spoke a long time ago, and you shared an example with me. This was years ago now, about how in India, certain, colors or styles of marketing are more common compared to the wording or styles in the US or Italy or different countries in Europe. And I always found that really interesting, like you just said yourself, you're managing so many different countries and you really treat it locally, which is really unique. Do you have any, stories or fun things that have occurred over the years that you could share with us about managing such, so many countries and international campaigns?
Absolutely. So I was lucky enough to work with different cultures throughout my career, so which I think has been one of the best experiences for my personal and professional development. So when approaching a different country, we were lucky because having local, employees, I was able to hire marketing managers, for example, in India or in China or in the US. And this was really enlightening because for me, I could really see how they were approaching things differently. For example, in China, we needed to have more writings. So, for example, in the US or also just in Europe, people do not read anymore a lot. It's more about the image, the perception, having maybe few concepts and ideas. Why, for example, in countries like China, they wanted to have the value and read as many things as possible. So despite our, let's say, tendency to shorten everything we were writing for the US or the European market, in Asia, we figured out that they really like to read. They are, for example, population spend above the average timing on reading website pages in those countries. So for them, having a very long, dense and technical piece of article, whatever that is, commercial or not, it was one of the main added value that we could create for them. While, for example, other cultures, I think Western cultures want something a little bit quicker, bullet points. They wanted to have a shorter version of everything. So we really needed to have this kind of difference, between what we were doing from a content perspective, of course. Or, for example, in India, they love the marketing around their own festival. Recently was just Diwali last week. So I realized how important was to kind of engage with our clients and celebrate together with them specific, festivals, specific traditions. So it's been quite a journey. Or, for example, numbers that we were not able to use because they were maybe bad luck in one country, but good luck in others. So we came across many, many different things, and it's been really fun, honestly, to work with different cultures overall.
That's super interesting. And I think those insights are so valuable to anyone who wants to expand globally. The approach you've had of really still keeping it local and finding out all of these unique things, not a one size fits all approach to each country.
Yeah.
It seems so important. So I'd love to talk a little bit more about, the family culture. So family driven culture of PQE. PQE is a global company, of course, but you did start as a family business, as many companies in Italy are. So, that's really, really common I'd like to mention it in case some of our listeners don't know that, but, it's a very common thing to see in Italy. And it's something I've seen is it's something really actually good in Italy, the way that businesses can keep really unique and close cultures from, their ethos of how they started. But I'd love to hear about what have been some of the advantages and challenges of maintaining that as you've scaled in really competitive markets like the U.S., which is now your biggest or one of your biggest markets.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for. I think this is an interesting question because Italy really is the country of family-owned businesses, as many in fashions, in food, in cars, everything, you know. And PQE makes no difference. As a country, we have a very strong entrepreneurial mindset, I will say, and with all the difficulties, and challenges it may bring, because. Our own challenge was that we decided as a family to keep PQE privately owned, so not having, for example, external investors or hedge funds helping us in the global expansion. I think it's been one of the main challenges, but we were lucky enough that really our expertise, and thanks to the very high level experts joining our company back 20 years ago, really had such a strong reputation in terms of professionals that really helped us out to gain and let's say acquire more clients around the globe, especially in the US. And the challenge, of course, were a lot from how to expand, and especially from an admin perspective of founding so many companies. But the good thing about being a family-owned business is, first of all, thinking long term. And when I say long term, I always say like very like for generations to come. So you don't speak or we don't speak our business in terms of 5 to 10 years. We speak about business in terms of generation. For example, our children, our nephews, what are they going to do with PQE when in 30, 50 years time? So I think having this approach, which is very common, that's what every family will do, at a personal level, really helped the company to constantly drive forward, and having more generation of the founding family involved really assure kind of the long-term and history of the company, because all of us have been involved in PQE and we all love it. So we are, I think, in a good place for what it's called, let's say, the generational change in a sense. And this mindset and passion that drove us to, because our aim is to be the number one consulting company in this area, in this field. I think it's something really unique, and only people that work in family-owned business can really feel that the difference between like a normal corporate that maybe is thinking more short-term or medium-term.
That's a great example, and something I think really great for all of the team members in PQE Group to benefit from that, because the company is really thinking long term versus short term when there are things like mergers, acquisitions, hedge funds, whatever it may be, VC involved. It's a completely different mindset. So that's a really amazing point, and something that will be great to observe as well over the years, and how that affects your decision making.
And let me add maybe one more thing. It's also about not having a financial only mindset in mind. So not having money as a primary goal as a company, but more about the community that we build. It's something really important. That's why even internally we switched from the family, let's say, word to the community word. We want to build a community, and that's our goal as a first thing, having more people involved in PQE. And when money is not your first driver, really change the game.
Very, very well said. So people, community over profits, which is something a lot of companies aspire to. So I'd love to speak now, Thomas, a bit about marketing and communications. As you know, the field is constantly evolving. We could probably just talk about AI for hours, but we're not going to do that. But I'd love to hear about what are some recent changes or trends that you've observed in the industry. How are they influencing your strategies at PQE Group? And where do you think marketing is going in the life sciences field?
Tough question, I would say, because as marketers, we basically are learning every day, because there's always new trends coming in our industry, not just in life science, but in marketing overall. So I've observed a lot of different platforms in the past years that have come and gone. So I think from my own perspective, what we do is observe and study the trends when they come out. Such as TikTok and many others, that were currently recently launched. I'm thinking also about Threads and others that were launched into the market. At the same time, though, my suggestion to marketers is that a trend sometimes is just a trend, so it's not something that we have to undertake for forever, or it's not a must. As we always have to keep in mind what's our goal, what's our business. So I'm not a fan of, let's say, if a new platform is out, we have to be there. You don't have to be on every platform. Always think where your consumers, where your customers are, because there's no need to be in every single platform if no one is listening to you. So I think as marketers, we really have to be more careful in selecting the right trends that really addresses the right audience, for our marketing campaigns, making sure that we really focus all the efforts on one successful channel rather than having multiple channels and spreading out too many efforts also from a team perspective. So I think it's important to analyze the trends. And one of the things that I really liked recently, and that's the trend that I also, let's say, that influenced a lot of the strategy of PQE Group, is the trend of the infotainment. So everything related to infotainment, which means providing technical values through new way of entertaining our customers. What we do in life science is extremely technical. Our audience is mainly engineers, pharmacists. So it's really important to find ways to make sure that you can deliver a technical content, either in a compelling, engaging, or fun way, if you like. So I think that's something really important. From a B2B perspective, in terms of strategies for PQE, together with infotainment, I think we managed to use a different approach, which is the brand journalism approach. Which means when we don't have a product, we don't have something that we sell, we provide services. So having very much of a journalist, let's say, touch to everything we do from a content perspective, and use a lot of PR agencies that supported us over this year was fundamental, because you really want to get our name up there and kind of be recognized as a thought leader overall. So I think personal branding, journalistic approach, and infotainment were the kind of trends that really influenced our strategy at PQE.
Great tips for everyone listening, especially if you're managing a more technical company. Do you have any favorite brands or content creators or anything like that you could share with us, Thomas? Where do you look for inspiration? I know you gave a great example of infotainment, so that's a great way to take things from other fields and bring it into a more technical field. Is there anything else that you really have seen recently that served for great inspiration?
So let's say when I'm not working on the PQE brand, I like to look up on so many different things. Actually, recently I was looking at different content created by a global marketing agency, which is called Marketing for Millennials, as I am a millennial. And I think that was really smart, because they were putting together, fun memes with common marketing jokes. And I think recently, whenever there's some fun or jokes involved, it really catches my attention. I think it's because I'm so used, to be dealing with technical content, that I think my brain kind of switched to something different when I'm not working. So I think putting the fun, it's a really smart choice. Putting like fun into marketing campaigns.
That's a great example. They also have a great LinkedIn account. I've seen that myself.
Yeah.
So I have to say
It's
that's a great
way. Especially because it resonates with you. So I think another important thing is try to do something that resonates with people. When people read that, they say, "Oh yes, that's me." So I think when you have when you reach that point that your customer kind of feel something together with you is definitely the best success for a marketing campaign.
And I'd love now, Thomas, to speak a little bit about leadership. As you said yourself, you're a millennial, so you were still in the earlier parts of your career journey. And I'd love to hear about what are some, even though with that said, of course, you're achieving amazing things and managing really big teams. So being a younger leader inside of PQE Group as a whole, what are some of the key leadership principles that have guided you? And yeah, how do you manage your team? What have been some of the ways that have really led you to success in managing such a diverse and really spread out team?
Yeah, I think one of the main challenge, of course, was managing a global team that is also working on different time zone. Was really difficult at the beginning because my team is spread out between Asia, across Europe, and the US and South America. So let's say that having a cultural, let's say, awareness of what people need, because every person needs different things. It's really important, not just as a personal level, but also from a cultural perspective, what they expect from us, how the way I communicate with the team, if I have to provide feedback, knowing exactly how to provide feedback and ask for things was the most important way, one of the most important tools that I have in my skill set right now. But overall, I think the main principle that guide my work is the entrepreneurial, mindset. Act as owner. That's what I say all the time. Maybe that's why the reason why I do that is because they did it with me, and it was like good for my personal development. So I do provide some guidelines and visions, but I want people to find their own way of doing things. There is a process and it has to be followed, but how to get to specific things, it doesn't have to be set on the stone. Flexibility is another thing, so if things don't change, I always have to, we have to adapt and be flexible in, changing the way we do things. So I think having such an entrepreneurial approach and leaving really people, giving people like a blank page to write their story on is the most empowering and successful things that I think we can achieve as a team. And because everyone can find his own way of working, his own way of succeeding. So I think this personalized approach really helps people to be empowered and to grow within a company. Not everyone like it, I know. So most people, there are people that prefer to have guidelines, strong rules to follow. That's something that is not my mindset. So I like when people are flexible and have courage to do something different. That's the main thing for me.
Very great insights. And yeah, I think that also relates to cultural differences. I've seen myself, some cultures like more flexibility, some like to be told exactly
Right.
what to do. So yeah, step by step. So I also lean much more on the flexible and innovation side. So I think it's something really interesting to see as well across generations, which generations, Gen Z, Gen X, millennials, which prefer a little bit more of each of these. I think probably millennials are a little bit more in general in the flexible style of working and feedback, but it's really interesting to see. So very nice insights. And I'd love now, Thomas, to talk about, the key of this podcast is we always talk about vocal leadership, and you are a vocal leader. You're really active online. You're also comfortable discussing a wide range of topics. Sometimes you even discuss sometimes a little bit of controversial topics. So I'd love to hear what benefits has your active online presence brought to you, and what advice would you give to other executives, specifically, more than anything, also marketing executives who are looking to establish their personal brands? What has helped you benefit from your professional profile, and how do you decide what to post and what not to post?
Great. So let's say, as I mentioned to you, having let's say created within the strategy of PQE a branded approach. I think personal branding was a huge part of it. As in PQE, there's a lot of high-level technical experts and opinion leaders that I wanted to highlight and make sure that they were kind of embedded into our marketing strategies. So being consultants ourselves, it's personal branding is important. So definitely, if people out there and to people listening, if you have a B2B business and if you're acting as a consultant, really personal brand, I think is a must. And that's, let's say, we try to kind of always have a balance in between what we post for our leaders or what I post myself, in between work and something a little bit more personal. It doesn't have to be your personal life. You don't have to share, personal life details, but you can still have a personal point of view or, say something different. I think it's very important. I will recommend to people approaching personal branding to kind of find their kind of editorial line. What do you want to speak of? What do you want to be different about? And even if you speak about something really controversial, as I do sometimes, as let's say, I love, let's say, always breaking the rules sometimes. There's always a good way to say that, So keep in mind that you can have a different opinion, you can have another approach, but there's always a right way to say things. People often, even in PQE during meetings, they tell me, how come every time you say something, even when it's not like really fun to say, because sometimes we also have to make our choices. It doesn't sound too bad because really it's the way you communicate, is the word you use. There's always a good way of saying things, even if you think they might be controversial or dangerous. I will say take the risk and be, let's say, aware on how to, let's say, put together your wording, because that really, words really make the difference. So I think that's something that everyone should do, and that people should be personal, and should be able also to take some risk, because when you're out there as a brand or as a leader, really the more you speak, the more people can actually talk to you. So you're exposed. You have to be ready for exposure. Have a problem. Let's say. Have a proper also management of crises and stuff like that. So it's really important to always keep that in mind.
Very well said. And has your professional profile, you travel a lot. Do people in different parts of the world, come to you from seeing that? Or do you have any of the benefits? Sometimes I like to ask this question to active people online because, of course, I know the benefits. Other people who work with us know the benefits of a great professional profile, but sometimes people are a little bit on the fence and they're used to their privacy and they say, well, what is this really going to do for me if I actually invest time in my own brand and my executive presence? So could you share a little bit with us about, some of the benefits you've seen from creating this presence? I know that it wasn't overnight, and it's something you put a lot of time and effort into. But I'm sure, I personally know it has paid off, but I'd love to hear if you could share that with our audience.
Absolutely. I think there's multiple really, let's say, good things that come out of it. So first of all, fun thing is sometimes people stop me during events or when I go to fairs and they say, "Hey, I follow you on LinkedIn." So that really is a funny feeling in a sense. But really many opportunities came out through our LinkedIn profiles. Either people that I've hired, people that I got in touch because my profile has been noticed on LinkedIn. So partners that I've worked with, people that I've hired, or clients that really reached out because they didn't find the PQ at first. They found our leaders maybe, So they heard or they saw something online about our leaders through the different channels that we have, LinkedIn and PR. And finding out about the leaders and knowing more of who they were, they got interested into our company. And that's how we created also business opportunities. So I think it's important to always have a goal. So I will say to people approaching personal branding, choose your goal. What do you want to, what do you want to get out of it? Do you want to have more brand awareness? Do you want to drive leads? So there's way of doing many, many things. And some things, of course, will not go as planned, but still, there's always, I think, a lot of different benefits. And my main I think being active, my channel is LinkedIn. Of course, you have to choose your own channel. So depending on what you do, what kind of leader and what kind of influencer you want to be, maybe you want to go on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, but choose your channel and work on it in a professional way. Take it seriously, because really a lot of benefits may come out of it.
And Thomas, I know you are a master networker. You are a great connector. I don't know if the word I want to use is connector, networker, but
Word, yeah.
when I've seen you many times in person, you are really amazing at connecting with people, from all different parts of the world, all different cultures. Yeah, how do you do that? I don't think it's a skill everyone has so easily. And I'd love to hear, I'm sure a part of it may come naturally to you, but do you have any tips for our listeners? As our listeners are usually executives looking for professional development, and I think this is a great area they could also learn from you.
I will say that really it's something that I didn't learn. I think it came to me by nature. I was a lucky guy that really I'm always looking to connect the dots. It's something that I'm really passionate about. But still, I think people can learn this, So always, let's say, go deeper, go at the second page. Always look for things and try to understand how to connect with people. There's also a really fun book that is networking for people who hate networking. So I think there are some inspirations out there that you can get, and not everyone is a great networker. It's also part of our own personality. But definitely there are some tricks and icebreakers that people can use. Harvard Business Review also recently developed an issue about networking that I always recommend is worth reading, on how to get in touch with people, how to break the ice, and of course that takes a little bit of courage, because you cannot be shy. But my suggestion is always find like an opening question or like something that doesn't make you as shy if you are, to open up a conversation. So once you get through the first conversation, it's always easier, even if you're not like the best networker.
Very well said. And we will all have to look up that book as well. It sounds like it has a great title. So I look forward to reading that. And how do you balance, you're frequently traveling all around the globe and you're managing your global team. Do you have any strategies that help you maintain communication seamlessly, that help keep your teams all synchronized, even when you're halfway around the world? What tips have, worked best for you?
So for sure, planning is a big part of my job. So planning not just my travels, but also work when I'm away. It's a huge thing. So I try to plan ahead everything that needs to be done and setting milestone with my team that they have to achieve while I'm away. So let's say I leave with some homework, let's say, to my team when I'm traveling. But the most important thing is that I created the kind of really a circle of trust among my senior team members. And there's always a shared responsibility in what we do. So let's say that I hate to be the bottleneck of every decision. So I really I trust my people. They're all senior and great experts. So I let them decide, and they know what I like. They know how I will decide, because they've been with me for a lot of years now. My current, some of my team members have been with me for over 6 years. So getting to know me really helped them to figure it out how I will decide when they have to take decision and I'm not there. So I think that's really important. But at the same time, I suggest if leaders if we have leaders listening to this podcast, try not to be the bottleneck of the decision, plan ahead, and always have a deputy and people that can decide when you are not away. So when I'm not around, a senior member of my team is my deputy. He can take decision for me, and he doesn't have to request my permission. Sometimes when I debrief after my travels, even if I don't agree with the decision he made, I'm okay with that. Be okay with the other decision being made, even if you didn't agree in ahead, because sometimes I'm just saying, okay, maybe I would have done this differently, but that's fine. So I think putting aside our ego that everyone has as a leader, at the same time, it's important to kind of let go of some stress that decision making may bring.
Great tips. And to end the podcast, Thomas, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your work with ISPE. For our listeners not in the pharma industry, this is one of the most important leading global organizations in the pharma industry that provides tons of opportunities for all different types of pharma companies and hosts, really large conferences around the world. So you've, been actively involved, and you continue to be a great leadership member of ISPE. I'd love to hear a little bit about what makes you passionate about it. And what else can you share with us about the things you're doing with ISP and how they could be tied to inclusivity and equality, which we know are some of the things that you work inside of PQE Group to create a safe culture as well.
So yes, I've been involved with the ISP since over 10 years now. So it's been quite a journey. ISP is a huge non-profit organization, for the pharmaceutical engineering space, and I think it really helped me develop a knowledge. Most of all, ISP provides knowledge and technical content to their members about new guidelines, regulations, and all the different trends in the pharmaceutical industry in terms of quality compliance regulations. So for me, it was first of all a way to learn about this job, as I'm not an engineer by education. So I had to kind of understand more of what the pharmaceutical space had to offer, and understand more how to market the PQE as a company. So that was the first, let's say, need that I had of why joining ISP. Then when I joined this organization, I became, let's say, an advocate for my company, but then also started volunteering in different committees. I'm now part of the board of directors of the chapter for the Italian affiliate. So it's been really a huge professional development path that really helped me out to network with people all over the globe, and not just for business reasons, but for any reasons. Really having something on the side from the business that is a community with friends that you can really trust, especially in such a global, community as we are living. Having people that you can rely on every time you're traveling to different parts of the world that are part of this organization really helps also my daily job in many ways. And I'm also a huge advocate for their program called ISP Women in Pharma, as being PQE, a women-owned company. Inclusion and equality has always been one of our main drivers of our business. So how to create a safe work environment where there is inclusion and there's no discrimination of any kind has always been part of the vision of our founder and CEO Gilda Incerti. So having the chance to also connect this aspect with a local organization in the pharma space and promote programs all over the world, not just with women in pharma, but also with young professionals, emerging leaders, people joining this industry, and being able to see emerging leaders that started as I did, becoming successful within the organization, their employers, has been a really important lesson for me from a personal and professional development.
Well, thank you, Thomas, for sharing that for us to wrap up with. We will link your LinkedIn. I'd love for everyone to follow you there. Thank you again for being on, and until next time.
Thank you very much for having me, Kimberly. Bye-bye.